Tama used to be a valiant knight who met his end at the hands of the demons. However, after his death, he was reborn into the body of Enshrank Behemoth, a creature so powerful it could obliterate entire nations in an instant. Or at least, that's what his status screen claims. In reality, he merely appears as a cat. While Tama is grateful for this second chance at life, he feels a bit torn about his new form as a monster, especially considering his previous life was entirely dedicated to slaying monsters. At that moment, he spots an E-rank slime slowly approaching him, and it's clear that the creature intends to eat him. Reacting quickly, he revisits the status screen to select a skill for self-defense. He unlocks an ability that allows him to fire rocks from his mouth and uses it to defeat the slime once the threat is eliminated. He realizes he hasn't eaten anything since his reincarnation, so he decides to give the slime a try. To his surprise, it tastes surprisingly good, and as an extra benefit, he discovers he can absorb the skills of monsters he consumes. This leads to him unlocking the ability to store items. After that, Tama decides to go through the rest of the dungeon to see what else he can eat. Since he's Enshrank, none of the other monsters really stand a chance against him. Tama proceeds to slay all kinds of minotaurs, golems, and snakes to feed on them, and so far his life as a cat hasn't been so bad. He could get used to living like this. At the same time, a very well-endowed elf girl has just arrived at the dungeon entrance to begin her day of adventuring back with Tama. He's still busy exploring his new home. When he comes across a treasure chest in the middle of the room, he's really excited, since this is the first time he has ever seen a treasure chest in person, so he rushes to open it and finds a massive gem inside. Unfortunately, the treasure chest turned out to be a trap, but instead of being a mimic, it teleports him into a hidden boss room. T finds himself riding on the back of an earth dragon, and unlike the other monsters he's faced so far, this one is also shrank like him, meaning he won't be able to take it down in a single blow. Like the others, the earth dragon taunts Tama for daring to enter her lair, declaring that she's going to kill him. However, Tama has only been alive for an hour, and he's not about to let himself be taken out so easily. He tries using his rock attack, but because the earth dragon is well made of earth, the attack harmlessly bounces off her back and strikes the roof, leaving a small hole. The dragon retaliates with a slash, but Tama counters it by activating his iron body skill to shield himself. Although Tama manages to withstand the slash, the attack leaves him seriously injured. The dragon, impressed that he's still alive after enduring one of her strikes, acknowledges his resilience, but notes that he remains too weak to defeat her. She charges forward, intending to finish him off at the last moment. However, T activates a flight skill and uses his tail to slash out the dragon's eye before escaping through the hole in the ceiling. Tama is losing a lot of blood from his injuries, so he's trying to get out of the dungeon to find a safe place to rest before he ends up passing out. He's right next to the exit, but he eventually succumbs to the blood loss and collapses to the ground. Just then he notices something approaching from around the corner, and since he can't move anymore, whatever that thing is will definitely be able to kill him once he is spotted. Luckily for him, it was the elf girl who came around the corner. As soon as she saw the near lifeless body of a cat, she rushed over to help him. Toma wakes up a few hours later to find himself lying in bed with his wounds carefully bandaged. Feeling disoriented, he wonders where he might be, but his confusion is interrupted when an elf girl enters the room holding a bowl of milk for him. He recalls catching a glimpse of her just before passing out and can't help but marvel at her beauty. The elf girl is visibly relieved to see Tama awake, noting that his injuries were quite severe. She admits she has no idea how a little kitten like him could have ended up in the middle of a dungeon. T quickly realizes that she believes he's just an ordinary cat rather than the powerful behemoth he truly is. Since he can't speak, there's no way to explain the truth. But even if he could, why would he ruin the arrangement when it means getting to sleep on her chest every night? Over the next few weeks, the elf girl continues to take care of Tama until he has fully recovered from his wounds. One day, Ara heads out as usual, and while she's gone, Tama thinks about how grateful he is for what she has done for him. She not only nursed him back to health, but she also gave him food to eat and let him sleep in her bed in order to pay her back for her kindness. That swears that no matter what happens, he's going to make sure he protects that girl with his life. To ensure her safety, T decides to follow Ara into the dungeon so he can keep an eye on her. He sneaks onto the boat before it leaves. Once they get to the dungeon, he begins quietly following Ara while staying hidden. He's a bit worried that she might get herself into some kind of weird situation, like losing her clothes to a slime or something. So he prepares himself to jump in at the first sign of trouble. As Ara encounters a group of goblins, she swiftly activates her acceleration skill, cutting them down with ease. Once the fight is over, she kneels to collect their ears, intending to claim the reward later. Watch her in action. T is thoroughly impressed with his past experience as a knight. He knows a great deal about swordsmanship and can easily recognize just how incredible Ara's speed and technique are. As Ara finishes stowing the goblin ears, she spots another goblin peering at her from behind a corner. Instinctively, she assumes her battle stance. She's already killed enough goblins to meet her quota for the day. But if this one insists on attacking, she's ready to take it down too. What she doesn't realize however, is that this goblin isn't ordinary. It's a goblin mage. Without warning, it hurls a massive fireball in her direction. Caught off guard and unprepared to handle such an attack, Arya finds herself in serious trouble. Tama doesn't want to let her get hurt, but he can't use any of his overpowered skills without revealing that he's a monster. Instead, he pushes Ara out of the way and slashes the goblin mage with his regular kitty paws, causing it to stumble backward and fall down the dungeon stairs to its doom. Ara doesn't understand why or how Tama managed to get here, but she's grateful that he saved her. On the ride back to town, she lets him lay on her triple Ds while she tickles his belly, and Tama is absolutely loving it. After returning to town, Ara heads straight to the Adventurers Guild to submit the goblin ears she collected. As she approaches the reception desk, she is intercepted by Lord Casman. Though she has encountered him before, she had been trying to steer clear of him because of his persistent attempts to recruit her into his party. Ara tries to politely decline his offer, fully aware of Casman's sleazy nature, but he refuses to accept her rejection. As if to push his luck, he reaches out to grab both of her cheeks before his hands can make contact. Taz springs into action, biting down hard on Casman's hand and refusing to let go. Casman yells in pain, flailing wildly in an attempt to shake Tama loose. When he finally manages to dislodge the furious kitten, T lands directly on Casman's face and unleashes a flurry of scratches before leaping back onto Ara's chest, leaving Casman thoroughly humiliated. Casman is enraged and is about to draw his sword to attack Tama, but before he could take a swing, his sword is grabbed by the guild master Arnold. Arnold reminds Casman that the guild has rules against brandishing weapons, especially when it's for a reason as pathetic as beefing with a cat. So there are going to be major consequences for him if he continues. Casman doesn't want to mess with Arnold, so he immediately runs out the door. Ara begins thanking Arnold for helping her out. He tells her it's no big deal and compliments Tama for sticking up for Ara when he bit Casman's hand. Ara then heads to the reception desk and Arnold documents all monster parts to officially complete Ara's quest. Afterwards, Ara takes a seat at one of the tables so she can spend some quality time with T. Up to this point, everything has been fairly wholesome, but Ara is starting to exhibit some odd behavior. While she's tickling Tama's stomach, her finger begins to stray dangerously close to his balls, and she seems a bit too thrilled about the idea of tickling her cat's private area. Shortly after, Ara prepares to take a bath and decides to bring T along with her. However, T, being a former knight with his honor to uphold, refuses to engage in something as improper as joining her in the women's bath. Despite his protests, T ultimately finds himself in the bath with Arya. While they're there, Ara starts talking about her aspiration to become stronger. She shares how, years ago, demons nearly wiped out her village, but the sword Saint Alicia arrived just in time, defeating the demons and saving everyone. Since then, Ara has been determined to grow strong like Alicia. The next day, Ara is heading to the guild with Tama again, and Tama can tell that she's well liked by everyone in town. Since they are all so nice to her, she makes it to the guild and greets Arnold at the reception desk. But Arnold tells her that today isn't a good day to be here, so she should get out of here quickly. Unfortunately, before Ara could follow Arnold's advice, Casman shows up and proudly announces that after he got injured by her cat, he went and tattled to the Baron. As a result, he was given a special order, saying that Ara's pet cat is to be put down. Ara is in utter disbelief at what she's hearing. Although she hasn't had Tama for very long, he's incredibly precious to her, and the thought of him being killed is unbearable. She drops to her knees, pleading with Casman to show mercy. Sensing her desperation, Casman decides to exploit the situation to his advantage. He suggests they have a duel. If Arel wins, Thomas's life will be spared, but if Casman wins, she must agree to become his wife. The deal is blatantly unfair, especially since Casman holds a higher rank than Ara, but with T's life on the line, Ara has no choice but to accept the terms. The duel begins, and Casman kicks her in the side. After she stumbles, he compliments Ara on her speed, but says that it won't be enough for her to beat him. Ara tries to switch tactics and throws several daggers at him, but Casman has a knife-proof cape, so he is easily able to block. He then charges at Ara and begins putting pressure on her by repeatedly striking with his sword until he eventually disarms her. Now all hope is pretty much lost for Ara, since she can no longer defend herself. Tama is feeling deeply torn at this moment. If he doesn't do anything, Ara will be forced into marrying Casman. However, if he uses any of his abilities, the onlookers will realize he's actually a monster. As Casman moves in to deliver the final strike and make Ara surrender, T decides he can't stand by any longer. He leaps in to protect Arya, activating his iron body skill to shatter Casman's blade immediately after Tama unleashes a powerful howl skill, sending Casman hurtling into a clock of nearby trees. By sheer coincidence, Casman's sword is flung in the same direction, aimed directly at his balls, ensuring he's about to have an extremely unpleasant experience. After what just happened, everyone in the crowd begins murmuring amongst themselves because they know they just saw the cat use skills. Tama knew this would happen, and now that everyone has seen him use skills, it won't be long before they figure out that he's a monster. He knows he'll definitely be killed, but even so he's satisfied with this outcome, because he at least managed to defend Ara. Ara and Arnold approach Tama, and after witnessing him use his skills, they begin discussing what he might actually be. Rather than concluding that Tama is a monster, they are convinced that he must be an elemental cat. Arnold announces Ara as the winner, and everything returns to normal, allowing Tama to carry on his life as an overpowered cat with the coziest bed imaginable. The next morning, Ara tries to coax Tama out of bed by part 2 cuddling him, but the mischievous kitten playfully nibbles on her ear, leaving her completely flustered and blushing uncontrollably. Remembering his past life as an honorable knight, T quickly decides to stop. Before the situation becomes even more awkward, he leaps off the bed to walk away, but Ara keeps calling after him, her tone full of longing, which only makes things even more uncomfortable for T later. Ara brings T to the blacksmith shop to visit her friend Vulcan. As soon as they arrive, Vulcan's attention is immediately captured by Tama, her eyes fixed on the adorable kitten. While Ara shares stories about Tama, Vulcan eagerly asks if she can hold him. Tama seems delighted as Vulcan picks him up, marveling at his cuteness. However, Ara quickly redirects the conversation to the purpose of their visit. She needs Vulcan to craft armor for Tama. Vulcan is thrilled by the idea, excited to take on such a unique and charming project. She immediately starts taking Tama's measurements, assuring Ara that she'll create the perfect armor for him. As Vulcan gets busy with her work, Ara leans down to whisper to Tama, asking if he's ready for an adventure. Without hesitation, Tama eagerly agrees. While Ara and Tama make their plans, Vulcan is laser-focused on crafting the armor, treating the task like it's her life's mission. In just under 10 minutes, Vulcan proudly presents the completed armor, and it turns out to be a masterpiece. Tama looks dashing in it, and the fit is perfect. However, Vulcan admits she's still struggling with another issue, Ara's sword. Despite reforging it over 100 times, she hasn't been able to make it any lighter, which makes it difficult for Ara to wield effectively during her quests. After some thought, Vulan suggests forming a temporary party. This way she can observe Ara in action, watching how she swings the sword to better understand the problem and find a solution. That day the team dives into the dungeon, where Vulcan quickly demonstrates her strength, smashing through the hideous goblins they encounter. Ara watches in awe, completely captivated by Vulcan's boldness and incredible power, while Tama admires her as both fearless and highly skilled. Vulcan's expertise is further demonstrated when she deflects a fireball attack from one of the monsters. Using a special ability linked to her smithing talents, she explains that her power allows her to imbue her armor with various elemental attributes, making her highly adaptable in battle. With the path now clear, Vulcan steps aside and urges Ara to take the lead with her sword. Their next challenge is an unsightly oversized orc. The creature's grotesque appearance is both repulsive and intimidating, but Ara charges in regardless. Activating her acceleration skill, she attempts to land a strike, but the orc proves to be surprisingly agile, expertly blocking her attacks. Tama then steps in, soaring through the air and activating his iron body technique to shield Ara from an incoming blow, distracting the orc just long enough. Seizing the moment Ara strikes and eliminates the beast in a single decisive attack. Vulcan observes Ara's movements closely and notices her long sword hinders her flow in battle, making her strikes less effective. Unhappy with her performance, Ara turns to Vulcan and requests an even tougher challenge, eager to push her boundaries and become stronger. Impressed by her determination, Vulcan encourages her to proceed to the next floor, promising even more formidable trials ahead. As they descend further, the group finds themselves facing a swarm of slimy, lecherous ropers rather than the usual massive beasts. Tama immediately grows nervous, worried that these slimy creatures will snare his mistress with their writhing tendrils. He quickly warns Ara to stay alert and avoid their sticky grips at all costs. Ara charges in with acceleration, but the roper speed makes them tough opponents. Her strikes fail to connect with their bodies, and one of the ropers shatters her heavy sword, leaving her defenseless. Just as she's about to be snared, Vulcan hurls a knife toward her. Ara catches at midair and swiftly drives it into the roper's core, killing it in one precise motion. With newfound resolve, Ara shifts her focus and moves to take down the next slime. As Vulcan watches her fighting style closely, she quickly realizes that Ara's true strength lies in using shorter, lighter weapons rather than her heavy long sword. In a matter of moments, Ara slices through the monster's limbs with incredible speed and precision, leaving Vulcan utterly speechless. Though she always knew Ara was talented, Vulcan hadn't anticipated this level of swiftness and effectiveness in dispatching the second monster. Just as they begin to think the fight is over, the slime splashes its goo all over Ara, completely drenching her from head to toe while regrowing its limbs. Cringing in disgust and fury, Ara grows that only Tama is allowed to do something like that to her. Fueled by her outrage, she obliterates the creature in a single devastating move. This time, she cuts it into into so many pieces that there's no chance of it regenerating. Vulcan and Tama rush to congratulate her on her incredible display of skill. While Vulcan moves closer to offer praise, Tama, being the cheeky little kitten he is, stops halfway to steal a bit of juice from the dead monster to absorb its skill for his own use. Still fuming, Ara unleashes her frustration on the remnants of the roper that dared to drench her. In its disgusting goo, she furiously stabs its already destroyed body over and over, muttering vengeful thoughts under her breath, while Tamama watches in silent bewilderment, wondering if she might be taking things a bit too far. After her rampage, Arya opens up to Vulcan and shares the story behind her choice to wield long swords. She recounts meeting the sword saint during her childhood, a figure who became her idol and inspired her to take up the weapon. Even though the long sword doesn't naturally suit her fighting style, Ara devoted years to mastering it in an effort to follow in her hero's footsteps. However, with her recent realization that daggers complement her skills far better, she has decided to embrace this newfound strength. Tama listens attentively and offers his support, reassuring her that this change will only make her stronger. Recognizing Arya's growth, Vulcan suggests venturing to a deeper floor of the dungeon. Trusting in Ara's ability to handle the challenges with her daggers, before pressing on, they decide to rest near a philosopher's stone, a rare artifact that keeps monsters at bay within its vicinity. As they take a break, Ara finds herself staring at the stone, which unexpectedly triggers a flood of painful memories from her childhood, when her home was attacked by demons, lost in thought. Ara barely notices Vulcan's concerned look. When Vulcan gently asks if something is wrong, Ara brushes it off quickly, changing the subject and steering the conversation elsewhere. While the group takes a break, Thomas splashes around in a pool of water, carefree and enjoying himself. Seeing him having so much fun, Ara decides to join in removing her plot armor and giving Tama a clear view of what's beneath. Vulcan soon joins, and the three take a refreshing dip together. However, as that swims, he tries hard to focus on anything but their exposed skin. During their break, Ara casually asks Vulcan about her usual dungeon party. Unknowingly, bringing up a sensitive topic, Vulcan explains that her party disbanded after two members fell in love and the female adventurer became pregnant. The couple decided to leave their adventuring life behind and settle down. The conversation then takes an unexpected turn when Vulcan mentions that elemental cats like Tama are capable of crossbreeding, speculating about what might happen if Tama grows larger and enters a serious heat season. As their break ends, the group heads to the next dungeon floor, where they encounter a fierce minotaur. Unlike the goblins and ropers from earlier, this creature is a formidable opponent. Ara approaches carefully, accelerating toward the beast and executing her whirlwind SL technique. However, her attack barely scratches the minotaur's thick hide, leaving her shaken. Vulcan steps in, offering encouragement and helping Ara regain her composure. Motivated by Vulcan's encouragement, Ara regains her focus and unleashes a series of faster, more aggressive attacks. Overwhelmed by her speed, the minotaur begins swinging its massive weapon. Recklessly, Ara began to understand just how powerful the heroes of Ragnarok were, while Tama was in awe of Dany's raw strength, eager to one day fight alongside him.